and welcome to the Rise Through the Ranks Summit, brought to you by Influence Solutions. No matter where you are in your career, staying relevant professionally will be a big part of your success. As the world changes as rapidly as it does today, one thing we can be certain of is that whatever we're doing right today might not be right tomorrow, and whatever is working today might not work tomorrow. So how can we future-proof ourselves for tomorrow's workplace? Here to share his personal take on the relevance of staying relevant is Rajiv Bhalla. Rajiv is an industry veteran with more than 25 years of senior leadership experience. Over the course of his career, he has been in leadership positions with global tech companies such as Intel, NEC, Microsoft, and Thomson Electronics. Rajiv is currently the Vice President and Managing Director at Barco, India. And here to interview him is Karen Leong. She is the co-founder of Influence Solutions, a TEDx and international keynote speaker, author, and business coach.
Hi, welcome to Rise to the Ranks Summit. Rajiv, it's great to have you here with us today.
I'm delighted to be here, Karen.
You know, Rajiv, I'd like to ask you, what is your rise through the ranks story? Because you have been through different industries, you have also reinvented yourself through the years. So share with us.
You know, Karen, I've had 25 years of work experience across consumer electronics, liquor, and IT domains. Worked across manufacturing, purchase, sales, marketing, and now profit center management. The one mantra for me has always been that you've got to be passionate about what you do. You've got to be a lifelong learner, willing to adapt to change, and success will come your way.
So, you know, change is indeed such a big buzzword today. And people are realizing that the importance of staying relevant, which is exactly the theme of our session here today. So why is then, being relevant so crucial?
Karen, when you live in a world that's changing as rapidly as it is today, then it becomes really important for both businesses and individuals to reinvent themselves so that they can be relevant. Today, when you add technology to the equation, then the pace of change is exponential in nature. You know, digital transformation is no longer a buzzword, it's a reality. You can see companies begin to reinvent themselves by adopting big data, 3D printing, AI, VI, AR, and so on, all to drive change. And this is really important because if you don't change, you're going to be disrupted by somebody else, right? You have several examples in today's industry where you have established businesses being disrupted by startups who are riding the technological platform. You have classic cases of Airbnb that has disrupted the hospitality industry. You have Uber who's disrupted the taxi industry. And today now you have Netflix that is out there trying to disrupt the broadcast and cable industry. As a matter of fact, one of the surveys done by EY and the Indian IT body NASSCOM states that by 2022, the 46% of the jobs that are going to be crucial in 2022 are jobs that don't even exist today. Skill sets that are going to be required in 2022, a third of them are not even considered important today. So when you're living in a world which is going to be filled with chaos, ambiguity, volatility, and complexity, the only way to stay ahead is to reinvent yourself and to be relevant.
So you talk about reinvention. I mean, something which you have personally done so well yourself. So how do individuals, what are 2 to 3 things that they can do to continue to stay relevant in such a changing environment?
You know, I think to stay relevant, you've got to be relentless about self-development. You've got to be fearless about innovation. I have actually 4 mantras that I've learned over my career journey, which I believe help me and can help a few individuals stay relevant. Right? The first mantra is that you've got to dare to see reality the way it is and not the way you wanted to see it. When you're successful, Karen, very often what happens is you get blinded. You become a little arrogant. You believe that what has led you to success so far is always going to lead you to success in the future. And I think that's where one needs to kind of step back and look at the reality. You have the classic case of Kodak, right? These were the guys who were the first to study digital photography. However, they termed the digital camera as a non-event because the quality of the image from the digital camera was really, really weak. What they failed to recognize was the fast pace with which technology changes and the improvements it can bring about. So hence I always say that, you've got to dare to see reality the way it is and not the way you expect it to be. You've got to be willing to walk away from what you've succeeded in the past and look at new ways of doing things. The second mantra is you've got to innovate or you always run the risk of perishing. I was at this analyst summit a few months back and they showed this interesting fish diagram. They showed the Microsoft fish eat the Yahoo fish. Microsoft actually outshadowed Yahoo with Hotmail way back. Then they showed the Google fish eat the Microsoft fish. And Microsoft actually lost out, as you know, in the race on the smartphones. Microsoft lost out on the opportunity to monetize search. And the Google fish began to be a threat to Microsoft. And then they showed the Facebook fish trying to eat the Google fish, right? Facebook, with its individualized search strings, was beginning to monetize advertising and reach out to the customers in a more accurate manner. And today, there is a threat of the Amazon fish eating the Facebook fish because of its large database that it has. So again, it's important that whatever businesses you are in, wherever you are in your life, you've got to innovate, or else you will always run the risk of being disrupted by somebody else. The third mantra.
It's a really powerful mantra, and it brings to mind, a company that you and I used to work for, Intel, where the mantra by Andy Grove is that only the paranoid survive. So literally, this is an ongoing game. I mean, this is life. And the great thing is that, human beings, we are creatures of progression, so this is something that we could focus on. So now you've got two more mantras that you wanted to share with us.
Well, the third mantra is exactly where, what you talked about, right? And the mantra is you've got to be hungry for growth and you've got to be brave enough to challenge status quo. So like Andy said, success breeds complacency, complacency breeds failure. Only the paranoid survive, right? So you've got to really be paranoid when you're successful. You've got to be looking out for those trends. You've got to be looking out for what you need to do different, right? I have seen in my life, Karen, several successful leaders begin to stagnate after some time because the companies began to grow faster than these leaders, and these leaders didn't reinvent themselves. Over a period of time, these leaders had to move out from the organization. And on the other side, I've seen folks coming in as leaders from different industries, asking those critical questions, having no baggage, and trying to do something different and leading the company to success. So you've always got to be paranoid for success and look at new ways and means of doing things. And the last mantra for me is about embracing change and embracing technology. I think technology today is both an enabler and a disruptor, right? Talk to me of a leader who's afraid of technology, and I can tell you there is a disaster waiting to happen. So you've got to really embrace technology and drive changes using technology as a lever. At the end of it, I firmly believe that you've got to be lifelong learners. And to be able to succeed in life, businesses or individuals need to continue to reinvent themselves. They need to move faster. They need to learn more rapidly. We need to adapt to things quickly, and we need to embrace dynamic career demands.
It's these four mantras bring to light, key lessons for us. So as a leader, what can one person, what can he or she do to help their teams thrive on change and to be relevant?
I think it starts with ensuring that you have a team of lifelong learners. I think it's all about first hiring right, and then you've got to enable your existing team with newer learning opportunities. You've got to help them with some training wherein they can excel in their jobs and in their domains and become holistically good individuals. I also firmly believe that job rotation is a great thing. And these days, in our organization, we are trying the process of reverse mentoring. We have these matured, elderly, tenured folks talk to rookies within our own organization so that they get better clued onto what the millennials really need, what's driving Gen Y, Gen Z, as they say, so that they can adapt more to their needs. At the end of it, I think it's all about providing learning opportunities, helping them get more agile, and actually rewarding these agile practices, Karen, that I believe leaders need to do to help their teams.
And Rajiv, it's also so crucial. So leaders need to be better facilitators rather than dictators in order to bring out the best in their teams. So really great 2 points. Simple, job rotation and reverse mentoring. So excellent. And I'm just wondering, one of the questions that we often get from mid-career managers is that, imagine if they had reached a certain plateau, then can they reactivate?
I think it again starts with what I said earlier, right? You've got to be relentless in your pursuit of self-development, and you've got to be relentless in pursuit of innovation. Very often what happens is we are our own biggest enemies. I believe sometimes we are the biggest obstacle in our own development and in our realizing our true potential. So in order to succeed, I think it starts with that self-realization. You've got to learn to move out of your own way. You've got to learn to shed old baggage. You've got to be humble enough to be willing to learn from new sources, from your colleagues, from your peers. And you've got to be consistent in that approach, right? At the end of it, it's important that one takes up assignments that are challenging in nature. I personally believe in every challenge is an opportunity and every pressure is a privilege, right? So you've got to be willing to jump into that water, be willing to take up something new, read as much as one can from not only your domain, but from outside your domain. And I'm sure you'll be on the path of reinventing yourself.
It's true that sometimes it just takes simple changes in our lives, whether it's to read things that are different, whether it's just to raise our hands to volunteer for opportunities, and that alone would set the game, and it would help us to start, really broadening our perspective. Rajiv, I'd like to ask you to look back into your career journey, because you have been with some really big names. And I'm sure that you have also faced a lot of ups and downs. Can you share 2 or 3 lessons that you have learned over the years?
So Karen, I'll take you back to 2004. I had just joined Microsoft. I'd gone in for my first global briefing. This was a meeting where about close to 15,000 sales and marketing folks from all over the world converged into a city, right? We had an air of positivity in Microsoft. The leaders had an air of invincibility. Microsoft had outshouted Yahoo. The PC business was growing, and we felt we are invincible. This sentiment continued for about 2 or 3 years. But what happened in a few years from then was Microsoft missed the boat as far as the smartphone space was concerned. We got a hammering from iOS and Google with its Android platform. We missed the smartphone race. We missed the opportunity of monetizing search. And then a few years later, we had the PC market begin to decline. So there was a lot of pressure. Analysts started writing off Microsoft, saying that Microsoft cannot grow any further beyond what it has. Steve Ballmer was under pressure, and by 2013, I think that was the year Steve Ballmer left. We had Satya coming in as the new CEO, only the third CEO that Microsoft had. Satya moved the focus from the PC business to mobile and cloud computing business. Satya moved from a closed network to more a collaborative approach. We started offering our productivity suites such as Excel and Word and PowerPoint, even to competitive platforms. And critically, there was a culture shift that began to happen in Microsoft from a culture of know-alls to a culture of learn-alls. And as Microsoft began to reinvent itself, Microsoft started succeeding. Today, Microsoft is again considered a cool place to be in. Microsoft's amongst the top 3 valuable companies in the world, and Microsoft's reinvented its go-to-market, has introduced innovative products, is on the path of success. So the learning I've had out of all this, again, is the first mantra that I mentioned, right? You've got to dare to see reality the way it is and not the way you hoped it to be. I think in 2007, 2008, we always assumed that the reality is the PC is going to be the key driver for growth. We probably missed the gun as far as other emerging form factors for computing were concerned. We missed the boat as far as smartphone is concerned, right? And hence started to decline. So that was a learning, right? You've got to see reality with open eyes. You've got to accept critical thinking, and you've got to adopt cross-cultural or cross-industry innovation. So that's been one learning, Karen, that I've had. I've had a similar learning when I was in Intel between 2012 and 2016. Intel too missed the boat on smartphones and tablets, but I believe rightfully started reinventing itself by focusing on new growth areas, new technologies around IoT, artificial intelligence, driverless cars. And despite the challenges that Intel has had in the past year, I believe Intel is on the path of reinventing itself and growing.
So I'm also just wondering, what has been one obstacle that your people are facing as they are trying to really perform at their best, and what is one way that you have helped them to overcome it?
I think that's a great question. We as Barco have our DNA strings built around 4 pillars. It's about leading by innovation. It's about driving bright outcomes. It's about being result oriented, and it's about driving sustainable growth. So the approach that Barco adopts is lead in everything that we do through innovative products, innovative solutions, innovative go-to-market practices. The reality is we're looking at enabling bright outcomes. 50% of world's cinema projectors, to give you an example, Karen, are based out of Barco. 1 out of 4 smart cities are based out of Barco display solutions. Over 5,000 surgeries are done daily using our healthcare display panels. Having said that, when you are operating in India, you've got to understand India is a very price-sensitive country, and sometimes a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. So to succeed in India, you've got to be looking at driving an in-country, for-country approach. You've got to be looking at localized go-to-market practices, localized products, and having stronger, empowered teams in the country. When I moved into Barco, this was my biggest challenge. 1, convincing the leadership team within Barco on this, and 2, convincing our team in India to be loud and proud and to shout out for help when one needs it. I believe we've moved significantly ahead, and we've grown 2 years on the trot. at over 20% plus. And I believe that's been made possible primarily because we've kind of moved that obstacle of a one-size-fits-all approach, and we've started looking at an in-country, for-country approach.
Thank you for sharing Barco's growth and key success factor. So the question is, how can we make this quality of being relevant more visible to our bosses?
Well, Karen, beyond making it visible to our bosses, what's critical is making it visible to our team and enabling our team to start getting relevant, right? We've started a change leadership program here within Barco called Voices of the Future, where we bring in industry leaders from across domains in India to come and speak to our people managers here and share their leadership journey, share what they're doing, how did they succeed in life. I think that's step number one. Step number two, we also move towards recognizing individuals and providing them opportunities for learning in universities, and we've started providing them job rotation opportunities. The third thing that we've started doing is move towards agile business practices. So we are in that agile transformation process so that we can be, as my global CEO says, a kick-ass company. And we drive that by helping our team, empowering them so that they reach their true place of entitlement in the world of business.
So what I'm hearing, I mean, these are very, very important initiatives from the leadership level that, leaders have the ability to create the environment where people see the value of change and people are motivated to start taking action so that the company becomes an agile and, like you say, a kick-ass company. So, Rajiv, what is then one final thing that you would like to leave our audience with?
I think, you've got to be a lifelong learner. Again, you've got to be willing to accept challenges. You've got to work in an environment which challenges you, stimulates you, and doesn't stagnate you. You've got to look for surrounding yourself with people who challenge you again so that you do your best. And at the end of it, you've got to be passionate about whatever you do, right? If you've got to drive change and you've got to move ahead, you've got to be passionate about what you want to do, passionate about your future, and I'm sure you will succeed.
So Rajiv, thank you so much for, sharing such valuable insights. And, through the interview, I'm reminded of one powerful message, which is also in the words of Steve Jobs: stay hungry, stay foolish. There is great ability in being in this place of a lifelong learner. It has been a pleasure, Rajiv. I'm so glad that you were able to share such powerful mantras with us. I'd like to say a big thank you once again.
Thank you for having me over, Karen. It was a pleasure talking to you.